First Spin. Welcome to First Spin, a show where I learn how to use the parallax propeller without having any prior programming experience. And rather than do this on my own, I have enlisted the help of two experts.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We are back from our excellent trip.
Well, not exactly. We haven't left yet, but we will be back. And
When you're listening to this, we'll be back.
We'll have been back.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to be getting back. And I will be working at that point on mastering all of the episodes that we're going to record live from the Parallax Expo.
Correct.
And if you see us there, well, I guess we're already done with that at this point. So there's no point in trying to find us there because we've already left.
Oh.
It's so sad.
It's over already.
Yeah. Such
What
a
is
bummer.
what
it's
is
like
this?
it's like it
But it
only
was
started 2 weeks from now.
It was so awesome. Remember when we had that?
You remember when I stole all of Roy's silverware and brought it home with us?
Oh, so that's what that is.
There's a lot of rattling in the trunk.
I thought I had to get it take it to the shop to get fixed or something.
You guys, stealing my stuff. Jeez.
My dad actually did that to my uncle when my
What?
uncle got married. He went on a
What?
honeymoon. My uncle did.
Yeah.
And my dad was supposed to babysit his house with my other uncle, my uncle-in-law, actually. And my uncle and uncle-in-law are very much Joker kind of guys.
Uh-huh.
And while he was gone, they took every single piece of silverware that my uncle owned, and they forked his yard with it. They stuck all the silverware
Are
in
you
his
kidding
lawn.
me?
And then they filled up his bathtub with water and poured in dozens of boxes of oatmeal. And they made oatmeal in his tub and just left it there. Evidently, it was like the most epic mess ever.
Oh my gosh, that'd be horrible.
Yeah. So
I'm not
you
letting
know.
your dad.
No,
hear
no,
this.
no, 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 no. Not even a little.
Okay. So back to spin language
We are
from the crazy land of Whiskers family.
I
little
know.
anecdotes there.
we are actually in the last section of symbols and such.
Yeah.
Syntax symbols.
Yeah. These are all just
They look pretty easy.
things you use throughout the code, some of which you probably already use, some
Yeah.
of which you
Will not.
may never use.
Yeah.
But it's all handy stuff.
Okay.
So obviously the first one there is single percent. It's just saying, hey, this is a binary number right after this.
Right. I know that one.
And you've used that one.
Yeah.
So the second one, you probably
Why in the
haven't-
world did they include this?
What?
the percent, which is quaternary numbers, which is base 4.
Yeah, but
essentially.
why? What
Um,
uses base 4 in the propeller?
I honestly don't know why they included it.
I mean, that's awesome. I've never used base 4
Um,
for anything, but that's really cool that you can.
I haven't. I've seen people put numbers in this form, but I wasn't sure why because they could have just used binary also.
Well,
I
you can use any
honestly-
base number system and get the same thing. It's just,
Yeah.
but some problems it's easier to deal with in different bases. And I'm just trying to think of which problem would be really
Um,
useful to use quaternary.
I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Chip. Maybe Jeff Martin or Chip at the expo
That we just came back from.
that we just came back from.
Time travel.
We'll have to ask them
Maybe
when they're there.
quaternary is useful for time travel. We will know in the future.
Could be.
We'll
We
come
know.
back and
In the
tell
past,
ourselves and then edit it in here.
We'll know each other.
I-
We'll know
if there's not any edit here, that means they didn't know either.
maybe.
No, we probably won't edit it into this show. We'll just have a new show with them maybe
Oh.
explaining
There's an
Oh,
idea.
from the past.
Okay, so that's easier than inventing a time machine.
much much easier.
Okay.
So the next one, hexadecimal indicator, is a
It's a dollar sign. Yeah.
That's fairly common, and you're somewhat familiar with hexadecimal base 16 numbering, right?
Sure.
Well, you've
I just
used
asked.
at least
I've
a
used
little bit.
it. And I just ask Whisker that for the translation.
Well, it's not difficult. I mean, base 10, each place value goes up by,
See,
by 10, multiple
he does this
10.
every time.
Well, just like binary, it goes up by 2 each time, it's 1 and 2 and 4 and 8, right? 10 is, ones place, tens place, hundreds place, etc.
He does this every time.
And it's base 16, so it's ones and 16s and so on and so forth. Same thing. Except you need like 16 symbols, so it's 0 through F.
A through F. A through F are 10 through 16 or 15.
I don't know why they didn't
0
just
through
use
F.
A through whatever, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then
0.
A,
We start from
B,
0.
C, D, whatever.
It's important.
I don't know why I don't know why you wouldn't start with like just letters, but whatever.
You can. I mean, you can do it however you want. The symbols don't matter in base 10 or this or whatever. It's just the symbol is the pretend part that doesn't have anything to do with the real value.
Oh.
Right. The convention is to use the numbers first and then the letters, but you could do whatever you wanted. It's just
you could have it be
you have to have the convention.
Apple through kitten. It doesn't matter.
Sweet.
You could count with kittens if you wanted to. You could have, you could count in base 7 with kittens.
$ Apple kitten.
As long as you had 7 different colors of kittens, you could count in base 7 with kittens.
So black cat, tabby cat, white cat.
And you just set their values of their symbol, right?
Fine, I'll use 0 through whatever. Gosh.
It makes it a lot easier to tell other people what your number is, because I mean, what happens if they don't have 7 kittens that are all different colors?
Whisker is just getting delirious.
Okay.
String.
I want base pi. Okay, that's all I want. I know Pi Day was a while back, and we talked about this a little bit, but base pi, that's what I want.
Okay.
Mostly because I'm hungry and I haven't had goulash, and
it's
now like 4 weeks.
With the goulash again.
It's great because it's been 4 episodes in a row of goulash talk, and I'm going to eat it after we're done because we recorded all 4 of them in a row. So future me will have waited 4 weeks for this goulash. It's going to be the best tasting goulash ever. Okay, so hexadecimal, base 16, quaternary, base 4, binary, base 2. And string designator, that's base 256.
What?
Well,
at the end of the day, it really kind of is.
Except that the quote is on both sides of it.
Yeah, which is weird.
String. It's not really weird. It's just because that's the way that the strings work. And I think you've already used this a little bit, Addie, because you've printed strings with PST, and so that's what all your strings are in quotes.
I see.
That's
yes.
what this symbol is for.
And strings are kind of like an array of bytes, really.
Right.
It's just a bunch of 8-bit values in a row. And, an 8-bit value is 0 to 256. So when you're dealing with strings, you can treat them as numbers. And that's base 256, which is why I said that the string stuff here is, you can use it that way.
And one thing to bring up, just because it's for a little bit more advanced programmers, in this particular language in Spin, the string doesn't automatically have a 0 on the end of it. When you put this quote, hello quote, that's just the 5 letters that are there, HELLO. If you want it to have the 0 afterwards, you have to.
I assume that's a C thing, Roy?
Yeah, in C and a lot of other high-level languages, when you have a string that is in double quotes like this, it automatically has the 0 termination.
Yeah, that seems absolutely stupid to me that you would have an extra thing on the end of it, because I want to be able to have character 0 in my strings. I want to be able to use that because I use them as if they were numbers.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just something to be aware of. So like, it's handy, when you're printing to PST or something, you use these strings like this, and there's not going to be an extra 0 in there, right? You're going to put whatever values you want for, like new lines and whatnot immediately after it to make it do what you want. But it's just something to bring, for anyone using spin, it's not going to be an issue because it doesn't have it. But if you're expecting it to be there because you're coming from some other language, you just need to know it's not there.
You can tell C was invented before modern network protocols, because anybody that does protocols would absolutely hate the fact that they would mess up your strings every time.
Right. Okay, and so the next one is just sort of a syntax thing, this little underbar.
Yeah, like when we do the crystal stuff,
or
5_000_000.
Right. It's just a mechanism that Spin allows you to do where you can put these underbars in because it can't let you use commas because those mean something else entirely. It's just allow you to break up the number into component pieces.
And it doesn't care where you put them in the numbers.
Right.
Yes.
So I tested this the other day because normally you'd like group your binary numbers into groups of 4 or something like that just so it's easier to read them. But I had different bits for different things. I was working with the TV object, and the way that it encodes its color is really strange. Okay, I'm sure it wouldn't be so strange to Roy because of what he does at his day job. But to me, it was really strange because it didn't use RGB. It used hue and saturation and that sort of stuff, which is really weird. But the different bits all did different things in the number. So instead of putting them in groups of 4, I wanted to separate the bits into, visually into which section does what. So I put my underbars in between the boundaries between the different sections that did different things. And Spin didn't care.
Gotcha.
Right. So just to be clear, another place that you can use the underbar is in your variable names. And it's actually one of the few characters that can be at the beginning. So normally your variable names have to start with a letter.
Yeah.
A through Z.
Yeah.
But it could start with an underbar.
Cool.
That's one option. And you can put underbars like out in the middle to break the words up, right? To make it a little easier to read the names of things.
And that's useful. You guys, I'm sure all of you guys have seen camel caps before where you'll smush 2 words together that would normally have a space. You capitalize the first letter of each one so you can tell where that space was.
Right.
If you don't like the look of camel caps, or you're stuck in a situation where you had one word of it was just 1 letter long, then sometimes using underbars for your spaces will look a lot better than having to have 2 capitals in a row.
Sure.
Right.
That makes sense. Sense.
So the next 2 are you may or may not have used. I'm pretty sure you have because you've used PST. The pound symbol in this context is if you want to access a constant from another object. So like in the PST example, they have some constants defined for new line and carriage return and some other things. And it's in some of the examples you'll see where they'll do a print stir with a string, and then they'll say comma PST pound NL. Right, and that means use the new line constant that's defined in the parallax serial terminal spin file.
Okay.
In the con section of the parallax serial terminal, there is a line that's in there that is new line equals 10. And so what it's doing is it's basically from your main program, you're accessing a constant defined in another program, in the other spin file that you included in your object section.
That's handy.
And the next one, the dot, you've definitely used because that's how you call any of the functions that are in PST, right? So you have PST dot stir and PST dot TX and all that. So that's all that is how to call the methods in other functions. The other thing that the dot is used for is a decimal point, obviously, and a floating point number. If you have a constant floating point number, you put a dot in there. 1.5.
Right.
So and you've worked a little bit with the range indicator, which is dot.
Oh yeah.
And it's 0, like the example here, 0.7 means
pin 0
all
to
of
7.
all the pins, all all the bits from 0 to 7 in
And
that
in an earlier
register.
episode, there was a little bit of confusion on whether or not you could use this in a case because Roy hadn't used it that way. You can use the dot dot in a case tree, so
Right.
very useful for there.
Mm.
And you can use it in a few places. One place you can't use it, which is one that you've wanted in the past, Whisker, which is using it on an arbitrary variable instead of a register.
Yeah, if you wanted to just access individual bits of one of your variables, it would be really handy to have the bracket and set the bits dot dot that range, close it, and
Right.
do assignments or whatever into just those. But you can't. But what you can do, which we've talked about before, is loading that 32-bit value into one of the registers that's not really used for anything else, and then
Exactly.
modifying it right there and then putting it right back where it came from. That's
Right.
a really quick, easy way to do it. And of course, you can do it with other tricks like bitwise ands, ors, and whatnot like that too.
Right. So the range thing does work on all the standard registers, right? So
Mhm.
in, out, dir,
Right.
all those
The ones that
all
I've done
those
before.
right, all the predefined registers, you can use the range thing to specify number of bits in them.
Mhm.
But like anyway, it would be really handy if the link, and it might end up in spin too.
Oh.
To use this in more cases.
Okay.
Thankfully, Roy has a little bit of he's participating with that process for Spin 2. So little things like that. If you guys also have any ideas, post them on the forums in a place where we
Yeah.
can see them on the Parallax forums. And
there's already been a fair bit of that.
I'm
actually.
sure, that it's a very vocal crowd with what people want to go into this sort of thing. But for any of you guys that don't know about the Parallax forums, the design process is somewhat influenced by what people are clamoring for. So,
That's true.
Right.
clamor loudly, and your features might make it into Spin 2.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Or maybe you'll just get a ban hammer for being rude.
So don't be rude.
Probably not.
Don't be rude.
Okay. So the next
I mean, they let
two-
Roy hang out there. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
well, I'm not rude.
See?
Just to my friends like you.
And if Roy said
Thanks, Roy.
So the next two symbols are used with your pub or pry, mostly with your pub.
Uh-huh.
But pry any function. The colon one, we haven't really touched on this one when used with a pub, because you usually just use the default result
Right.
variable.
Right.
Well, what the colon lets you do is actually name that variable something other than result.
Oh, nice. Handy.
So you can say colon Addy.
I had a
and
question on this one. What if you're doing also a pipe after? To set
you
some
do
variables, does the variables go last?
It goes after, yeah. So you have the result is immediately after the close parenthesis of the
So,
parameters.
so it would be like pub, and then the name of the pub, then your colon, then the name of the result variable that you want to use, then a pipe, and then comma delimited longs that you want to have available as local variables.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And like I said, the colon is so that you can change the name of that built-in result variable to something else. And it's not often used because most of the time you can just use result, but some people are, taking some code that uses some other variable name to generate a value, and then they can just use this colon thing to make that be the result. It might make it more clear in the code.
Gotcha. Okay.
The next one, the backslash there, we've talked about this one in a previous show. It's the abort trap.
Uh-huh.
Goes along with the abort command.
Okay.
And we went over that one pretty carefully because I hadn't really used it before, and so we went through and read about it and everything. But basically, this is the goes together. It's the sister thing to go together with the abort. So when you abort, if you have this symbol in front of the method that has the abort inside of it, it comes back to here.
Okay.
So, we don't need to go into details over it here. They can listen to the show where we talked about it, or go look in the manual for some more.
Right.
Obviously the comma is pretty simple. It's just a delimiter for a list of things. So like if you have more than one parameter for a function, you would have, the open parentheses and the first parameter name, comma, another parameter, and then close parentheses, and that's 2 parameters, right?
Pretty
Same
sure
thing
Addie
for-
has used these quite a bit.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and we're getting into some of the more basic syntax stuff, but we might as well cover them for everyone's benefit.
Right.
You can also use comma for things like declaring multiple variables on a single line. So you could say long x comma y.
Yep.
It'd be 2 different variables.
Yep.
Things like that. The next thing, parentheses. We're all fairly familiar with parentheses. They're used in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
One key thing to add in here, just because it's important to note, you can use parentheses to help override operator precedence. So you can put stuff inside of parentheses, and it'll do that stuff inside the parentheses before doing anything outside of the parentheses.
Right.
So,
Just like typical like algebra or whatever.
like normal math operations. It's just, some people don't realize that that's what that is doing.
Yep.
Just bring it up.
Okay.
So then we got the square brackets, which is used for a couple different things. One is the one you're already familiar with like in A, and use the bracket, and the number inside the bracket is designating which pin.
Yep.
Or pins.
Yep.
It's also used to index into an array. So if you have an array of, in your var section, you have long stack, like the stack, you put stack open bracket 20 close bracket. Then you can access the values in stack using the square bracket also. So you can say, x colon equals stack open bracket 1 close bracket, and it'll give you the second entry because we start at 0.
And of course, this array thing is the reason why the brackets won't work to access individual bits of variables.
Right.
Because instead, it does this.
Right. Yeah, so it, like you said, it's used as array indexing instead of doing ranges of bits. It would be nice if there was a context mechanism it could use to determine, well, it's not an array variable, so I'll just treat it like it's accessing the bits. Or something like that.
I don't think Addie's used the next couple of these, the comment designators.
Right. So the next 4 are all different.
Oh, I've seen these in like
them,
random people's codes.
Right.
I always delete them.
Well, you don't want to delete them. It's helpful information.
Eddie's like, comments? I don't need no comments.
No, I keep the comments.
I got Roy and Whisker. I'll just ask them.
I read the comments and I keep the comments. I just delete the little bracket things because I always think they're like random splashes on the screen. So
well, no, but the thing is that's what makes it actually be a comment, so that the compiler will ignore those parts of the code and not try to.
A single little quote mark does it.
Well, a single little quote mark only does.
Well, there's 4 different ways you can do it. Right. And that's the next 4 here.
Okay, so this is like at the very top where it's like, this code is meant to blah 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 blah, right? Yeah.
A lot of the code that you'll find like in the OBX or example code from Parallax's store on the page where they have example code for their products will have a section at the top that has a curly brace with the open curly brace and a closed curly brace around it across multiple lines, and they'll have like a whole paragraph up there describing the code or what it's going to do, and that saves them from having to put a little apostrophe in the front of every line. They just have the curly brace at the beginning and the end, and everything in between is all comments.
Sure.
Now the difference here between the single curly brace and the double curly brace is the double curly brace one is counted as documentation. And the same thing is true for when you have a double apostrophe instead of a single. And that's not a quote, it's 2 apostrophes, one after each other. It means it's a document comment.
Okay.
And what those do is if you're in the propeller tool, there's if you go to it right now, at the top of the propeller tool, there's these little radio buttons that say full source, condensed summary, and documentation.
Yeah.
So if you have a spin file open,
Ooh.
and you do documentation,
Yeah.
It reduces everything down to just the stuff that was between any of the double curly braces or the lines that had the double apostrophes.
That's
And
why I see it happen at the end so often.
right. And it's so that you could do something like document your code in a sort of reader-friendly format,
Sure.
but it can also be interspersed in the code, and then you click this documentation button and it just condenses everything down to just the documentation comments.
Sure.
And it's just a handy feature of the prop tool, and spin language itself allows for it to work.
Well, that makes sense.
But that's all that those are, is the difference between those. Other than that, they're identical as far as functionality. They're just comments.
Okay.
Right. And in the prop tool, they get colored slightly differently. They have like two little different shades,
Mm-hmm.
colors for the different kinds of comments.
Okay.
It anyway.
Let me take a look here.
The comment thing is pretty simple.
Blue.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add one more comment just to see what happens here. Oh, I see. So one quote is like a blue, and then a second quote is like a gray. I like it. I kind of like the color. Such things.
The way it works is that the color it is depends on what section you're in, right? So if you're in a con section, the color will be
Oh, you are right.
relative to the color of the section you're in the prop tool.
And that's to keep the legibility up.
Right.
Oh.
Whereas the single ones will be the appropriate color, and the double ones will be, gray instead of the appropriate color.
So whoever chose these colors, I should thank them.
They're very nice colors.
I know a lot of people don't care much for the colors, but I like the colors a lot.
I like the colors in general for the tool.
Yeah, it keeps it
Makes
nice
it easy to figure out where different things are in the code when you're scrolling up and down of a large program.
Yep.
Well, you know what this means, guys.
What?
We have made it all the way through this spin language reference.
Right. Well, at least the part that describes how the language itself works.
Yeah.
There's a few rules and things that go into more details about what we talked about, but that's...
I think what we might do here is open things up a bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to set up a way here in the future for you guys to be able to ask questions too.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to set aside some time each show to answer listener questions.
Sounds good. And I think we also have hopes to cover different peripherals, sensors, kind of
all the stuff you can actually do with the propeller
with the
and spin.
information.
Yeah. You got a whole slew of different interface sensors and interface devices from Ken.
Yep.
That we're gonna go through examples, and you're figuring them out, or you're already doing some of that in your videos and on the blog.
Correct.
Yep. Eddie's been working very, very hard at getting up to par and actually using these things so that when we get to the point where we're going to start recording lots of explanations about things that take a heck of a lot longer to explain than just one little operator in the language, she's already going to be ready to go.
Yep.
I sure hope so.
And if she's not, well, we'll help her with that.
Yay, first spin.
That's why we're here.
Y'all are the experts. Although now I think I might have to change the start of the show to
No, you didn't have any prior programming experience, so it's still valid.
Okay, I will take it then.
Now when Spin 2 comes out and we get into second spin,
second spin,
that you're not going to be able to use that
anymore. Won't that be first PASM?
Oh, no, I mean Spin 2 for the Prop 2.
My gosh.
The new spin.
The entire universe is going to clamor for you to have an early copy of it. So that you can figure out all the hard stuff and then they don't have to.
I am not even ready for that.
That's what you were saying several months ago when we started this.
I know. But, these days I look at the code and there's so much stuff that I still don't understand. like the binary math, before. I mean, now I somewhat get it, but it's like if I were writing from scratch, I wouldn't be able to just be like, oh, okay.
I'll just throw some bits over here and do this, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's...
It just takes practice and using it multiple times, and by the time we get through all these different sensors and devices to interface with them, all the different code you're going to have to do to work with them, you'll be like, man, I thought that was hard, and it's actually not.
Right.
Just like you are now with some of the stuff.
Right.
Okay, guys, that's all the time we have for this week, and it's going to be like these last 4 episodes were recorded before we left for California, and a lot of first spins are going to be recorded while we're there. So I don't really know what the next episode is going to be, and it may be a while before we actually sit down in the studio here to record a first spin. The next set of them we're going to be recording live with Roy right there, so the dynamic's going to be a little bit different. I'm probably going to be poking Roy in the face with pencil erasers and stuff.
And then we might be able to twist some guest speaker arms.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's going to be a whole bunch of experts there.
Huzzah!
So yeah, it should be fun. Anyway, we're completely out of time. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening, everyone. Please comment with ideas for how you guys would like to be able to submit questions for us.
Yep.
We can do any number of things. We'd like to know how you guys would like to be able to put those up. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys next Tuesday at firstspin.tv. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.